Welcome to I Am Living Legacy, where Black stories breathe and legacies live. I'm your host, Dr. G, and this is our soft, sacred space, a place where everyday voices hold extraordinary truth. Here, we gather the lived wisdom of our people, life lessons, joys, grief, resilience, and love, passed down through generations. In a world that has worked hard to erase our histories, this is our resistance. We remember, we speak, we carry forward. These stories are not just memories, they are maps, they are mirrors, they are medicine. So settle in, take a breath. You belong here. For the past 5 years or so, I've been trying my hand at growing herbs. Now, when I say trying my hand, I need you to hear the emphasis on trying. I have rosemary, Thai basil, mint, thyme, and bee balm. This year, I decided to expand my agricultural horizons and grow okra. My plant produced exactly one okra. Not enough for gumbo, not enough to fry, not even enough to share. Just one proud little okra standing there as if it had completed a major assignment. And you know what? I was still excited because I grew it. I have also tried strawberries and lettuce. I'm also currently growing green onions and celery and water from stems that would have otherwise been thrown away. And because I absolutely love arugula, that is next on my list. I may not have a farm or rows and rows of crops, but I've discovered something deeply satisfying about placing my hands in soil, tending to something living, and eventually eating something I helped grow. There is something spiritual about it, something grounding, something that makes you slow down and pay attention. A seed does not respond to urgency. You can't rush it because your schedule is full. You can't hold a meeting with it and move its deadline up. You place it in the soil, you water it, you make sure it has light, you pay attention to what it needs, and then you wait. Maybe that is part of what the soil is trying to teach us. Everything does not grow on demand. Some things grow through patience. Some things grow through consistency. And some things are developing beneath the surface long before we can see any evidence. My grandmother had an in-ground garden. She grew tomatoes, had pepper bushes, and fig trees. She used the figs to make preserves for my grandfather, and she used the tomatoes and peppers in salads and other dishes. At the time, I didn't fully understand the value of what I was witnessing. It was simply something my grandmother did. The garden was there, the trees, the preserves were there, and the food appeared on the table. I didn't understand that I was watching knowledge in motion. I was watching resourcefulness, care, patience, provision, love, and legacy. My grandmother understood how to take what came from the earth and turn it into something that nourished our family. Now, all these years later, I find myself tending rosemary, clipping Thai basil, placing green onion stems in water, and celebrating one single okra. And I wonder if something she knew has been waiting inside me. Maybe that's how ancestral knowledge works sometimes. It doesn't always arrive as a formal lesson. sometimes it lives quietly in what we observe and what we smelled coming from the kitchen, what we saw growing behind the house, and the way our elders used what they had. Then years later, something awakens the memory. We place our own hands in the soil, and suddenly we understand. When we talk about Black people in the land, we have to tell the entire story. Our agricultural history did not begin with enslavement. African people cultivated land, they developed agricultural knowledge, preserved seeds, understood growing seasons, and built food traditions long before Europeans forced our ancestors onto plantations in the Americas. Even the okra that gave me my one pod harvest carries a story. Okra came from Africa and became an important bridge between African and African American food traditions. It traveled into dishes, kitchens, memories, and communities. And here in Louisiana, we can't talk about okra for long without gumbo entering the conversation. Our ancestors didn't arrive empty. They carried knowledge, they carried memory, they carried ways of cultivating, seasoning, preserving, healing, and feeding community. But in America, that knowledge was exploited. The soil became connected to captivity, to stolen labor, to violence. After emancipation, the relationship did not suddenly become free or equitable. Sharecropping, discriminatory lending, denial of access to agricultural programs, dispossession, and the loss of Black owned land created another chapter of injustice. So, yes, for some Black families, moving away from farming represented opportunity. It meant leaving the rural South and backbreaking labor. It meant leaving land that held memories of exploitation. It meant seeking education, safety, mobility, and work that offered a different future. And we shouldn't judge that movement. We should understand it. And we should also remember that Black people never completely left the soil. Some continued farming, some carried seeds north during the Great Migration, some grew vegetables in backyards, on porches, in window boxes, and in community gardens. And some kept feeding their families from small plots of land, even when no one called them farmers. The connection bent, it changed. Sometimes it became painful, but it did not disappear. That's why I'm encouraged by what I see happening now. Black owned farms and farmers, Black gardeners, community gardens, urban growers, young people learning how to plant, families teaching children where food comes from, people growing herbs on apartment balconies and vegetables in 5-gallon buckets. We are finding our way back, but we are returning differently. We are not returning to exploitation. We're returning to agency, to nourishment, sustainability, health, and to community. To the knowledge that growing food, even a little of it, can be an act of care. I use my Thai basil in salads, soups, and sandwiches. I use my rosemary when I bake chicken. I add mint to water with lemon and agave as something refreshing to drink. These may seem like small things, but there is joy in walking outside and clipping what I need. There is satisfaction in knowing where it came from, and there is gratitude in recognizing that the same earth holding the roots of my herbs has held the footsteps, labor, prayers, and possibilities of generations before me. And let us talk about these food scares for a moment. We have seen concerns involving lettuce, recalls and outbreaks involving eggs. Just when one food scare settles down, another one seems to take its place. Social media, of course, has responded in the only way social media knows how. I saw a post that said, at this rate, we're all going to be sauteing grass. And I couldn't help but laugh because sometimes you have to keep from standing in the grocery store looking suspiciously at every item in your cart. Now, growing a few herbs or vegetables will not replace the food system. Most of us are not about to install a chicken coop, although my oldest daughter has been putting those words into the universe. We aren't going to plant 10 acres or start grinding our own wheat. But there's still value in knowing how to grow something. Maybe it's basil, mint, or tomatoes. Maybe it's green onions regrowing in a glass near the kitchen window. Maybe it's one little okra that makes you feel like a full-fledged farmer. I know I did. It's not about becoming completely self sufficient overnight. It's about recovering a skill, understanding the process, respecting the source of our food, and remembering that we are not entirely disconnected from the earth beneath us. I'd like to invite us into a sacred fast. Take a deep think about someone in your family who knew how to grow something. Maybe they had a full garden, or fruit trees, or grew herbs in pots. Maybe they saved seeds, preserved fruit, canned vegetables, or knew exactly when something was ready to be harvested. What did you witness that you did not recognize as wisdom at that time? And what knowledge might still be living within you? What could you plant now, not only in soil, but in your family, your community, or yourself, that someone else may benefit from? See, some seeds grow quickly, others wait for the right season, and some of us are now discovering that the seeds our ancestors planted have been growing within us all along. And perhaps the soil is also reminding us to be patient with ourselves because we're gardens too. Our minds need tending, our bodies need nourishment, our spirits need rest, light, and room to breathe. We can't rush ourselves into blooming or shame ourselves into growing. We have to notice what needs watering, what needs pruning, and what may simply need more time. So, as we tend the gardens around us, may we also tend the gardens within us with patience, care, and the understanding that growth is still happening, even when we can't yet see it. There are stories in the soil of African knowledge, of exploitation and survival, stories of land taken and land protected, stories of migration, of grandmothers tending gardens and turning figs into preserves, of families feeding one another with whatever could be grown. And now there are our stories, stories of returning, relearning, reclaiming, planting on balconies and in backyards, beside windows, and in community spaces. Stories of discovering that putting our hands in the soil can regulate something within us. It can remind us to slow down, to tend, trust, wait, and to appreciate the miracle of being fed by something that began as a seed. So, no, my garden isn't feeding the entire neighborhood just yet. And my one okra is not going into a pot of gumbo. But every time I clip my basil, smell my rosemary, or watch new roots emerge from a discarded green onion stem, I feel connected to something larger. I feel connected to my grandmother, to the land, to the wisdom of people who knew how to make something beautiful and nourishing grow. Maybe the invitation is not for all of us to become farmers. Maybe the invitation is simply to remember that we come from people who knew how to cultivate life. And perhaps we can begin again with one seed, one herb, one small pot, and one story. As we come to the end of our time together, I want to leave something especially for you, the person listening right now. May you tend to yourself with patience, tenderness, and trust in your own season of growth. Pay attention to what your mind needs. Listen to what your body is telling you. Give your spirit rest, light, nourishment, and room to breathe. And remember, you don't have to be in full bloom to be growing. So put your hands in the soil if you can. Plant something small. Care for the earth around you, but also care for the garden within. Until next time, keep living your legacy. May the ones we touch continue placing their hands in the soil. May they know how to tend their minds, honor their bodies, and nourish their spirits. And one day, when they place their own hands in the earth, may they feel us there. May they recognize the seeds we planted, and may they continue tending the legacy we placed in their care.